You're listening to a Count Out Podcast.
Well, welcome to another episode of Your Dose of Death podcast. This is Loren this week. Mike Servino, of course, he's been kind of battling COVID a little bit. Wish him nothing but the best in his medical endeavors. He'll be back soon, hopefully within the next week when we get another episode out. But for now, it's just going to be me lone wolfing it. I want to thank everyone for listening to the John Bullard interview. As I said on there, I'm trying to do 20 interviews within the year. That's the goal. So him being number one is a true honor, a guy who we just became really good friends really recently. And of course, his fellow commentary partner, P-Pod, will be on here in the month of February. We're just working out dates for that. And there'll be some returning guests as well. So interviews will be something that I'm trying to prioritize more of for this podcast. And I know last year was kind of rough for that, but we're back on the horse. The world of deathmatch wrestling really doesn't stop. Even when you think it does, it stops. But nonetheless, we're going to keep the world churning. I haven't talked to you guys in a little bit. So sometimes I like doing these solo episodes just to kind of talk to you guys, the listeners. I know maybe they're not the most enjoyable, but nonetheless, I like doing them. So I haven't talked to you guys since after NGIA. It's kind of funny that me and Mike put out that episode about our predictions for NGI, and Miedo goes on to win NGI. It's kind of crazy in the sense that he was probably one of the least likely guys to win, but you can look at it like this. With Miedo winning NGI, makes Los Machines one of the most successful deathmatch tag teams of all time, if not like the GOATs. Ciclope had won TOS 3, which is crazy. And then, of course, now you flash forward years later, just Miedo winning NGI. Their former multi-time GCW Tag Team Champions really have put Mexican Deathmatch on the map. They've really kind of done it all in the sense of deathmatch wrestling. And they're still at the peak. They're still up there. I mean, for them having to go through that whole visa issue for several years before finally being able to come back to the States in 2022 is wild. But congrats to Miedo. That glass ceiling match was wild. I honestly thought it was better suited for a tournament final. And I know people are going to rag on it because, it's glass. The glass ceiling is meant to be a spectacle. It is not meant to be a work rate kind of match. It is a match that happens to be a spectacle as well. And of course, we talk about the previous glass ceiling match with Jimmy Lloyd and wrestler that shall not be named, as I'm going to keep it. It was good. It was a spectacle, but I think the wrestler that shall not be named kind of left a stain on that match. I think now you rewrite the history books in a new venue in the terminal, and you bring back the glass ceiling, and it just felt better. Murdoch and Miedo. Murdoch, I kind of want to take the time to talk about John Wayne Murdoch. He's kind of been in the news a lot lately, and I want to give my flowers to John because John's been killing it for the last few years. He and I go back a bit when I interviewed him on this very podcast. Someone who has always appreciated my work, and I have appreciated his work, and a guy who literally is one of the best work rate deathmatch wrestlers in the world. Been in the rings with the likes of Takeda. Has given Rina Yamashita not one, but 2 solid matches. I'll get to the GCW Chicago show because I want to talk about that match in a second. But he has been around the world. He has wrestled some of the best in the world and has consistently made everyone look like $1 million. I mean, look, his intergender, like, I don't want to call it crusade, but just the work he's put in intergender death matches is second to none. It is intergender wrestling is not easy. And I know there are wrestlers like Charlie Evans who are like, forget about the genders and all. I'm just kind of saying it as is. But John Wayne Murdoch gave Masha Slamovich 2 really quality death matches. Gave Tara Zepp her first death match, and it was absolute quality. And he gave Rina and Masha 2 really good matches, as I stated previously. So the opportunities are endless for Murdoch, and we'll get to something that was announced for him for Mania Weekend, and I'm ecstatic about what the future for John Wayne Murdoch, because yes, one door has closed for him, and if you know, I'm not gonna get into that real specifically, but another door is opening for him, and I mean, he will win the GCW Ultraviolent Championship. I'm hoping that's the case this year. He will be someone that is going to get back out there and put in the work, and it's only going to benefit him. So John Wayne Murdoch really was an MVP. Risa Sarah, really happy that she was able to come to the States. Daiju Wakamatsu. The Matsunaga gear popped me, but it was a bummer he couldn't make it for the tournament. But man, him and Murdoch absolutely killed it. That dude takes some crazy bumps. I know Brett Lauderdale put out a tweet asking if you want to see Wakamatsu back in the States, and a lot of people were like resounding yes. But I want to see him in a tournament. I want to see him in TOS. I don't want to just see him in a singles match. I want to see him in freaking TOS. Let's already start talking about TOS. That's going to happen in June of all places. So that's how I see it. NGI was great. Everyone really killed it. Jacob Fatu in his one match was awesome. I mean, I like to see him in more death matches, but I know he's not going to be a death match guy, so man can dream. It's not easy, but I mean, he looked great. I'm loving the Jimmy Lloyd Broski. The Broski Jimmy gimmick is priceless. I wish he would kind of incorporate more of his actual gimmick into that in his death matches now. We'll see how that goes forward. But anyways, I mean, it's NGI 8 was great. It was a great show. It was a bummer I couldn't be there. And I want to talk a little bit about Kasai Gage the next day. If you haven't watched it yet, go watch it. It is. I got to talk to Nick before Chicago. I was like, fantastic match with Kasai. I know how hard you've wanted this, how long it's been for this match to happen. It was good. War Games was the taste test, and getting Gage and Kasai in the final 2 was perfect. But getting Gage and Kasai to end the year of 2023 and to ring in the new year of 2024 was excellent. So, glass galore, light tube shots galore. There was a story here. I know that glass is kind of a divisive topic in deathmatch wrestling, but sometimes for a big match that we've been waiting years for, this is the exception. Excuse me. But it really was great to see Gage and Kasai finally, the two guys who have owned their craft for years. I mean, Nick has waved the deathmatch flag in America for years on end, through his tumultuous prison stints to being out of prison to changing his life around to the dark, like that. And I think the big thing here was it's kind of been the peak of Nick's regaining his health, And I mean, that ankle injury in 2020 was really bad. It really derailed his health. It was an injury that he re-injured against Mox. It seemed like it'd been kind of rough, tough sledding for Nikki. But listen, him and Kasai was peak. It was the magnum opus of what we've been waiting for years. Like, we're going back to when GCW, they said it couldn't be done bringing Kasai over to the States for the first time in years. When Gage and Kasai stared each other down, we all thought 2020, we were going to get Gage, Takeda, Tremont, and Gage in the same ring. But COVID hit. We waited years upon years. Nick couldn't go to Japan, and bam. This is peak. This is what we were waiting for. It did not disappoint. And Nick, this is the best Nick Gage looked. It was the best he's looked in years, it seems like. I mean, the matches with Sadika, he got hurt real bad there. The matches with Cole Radrick was great. There have been great matches with him. But this was what we've all been waiting for. If you were a fan of Nick Gage, you watched this match. And if you were a new fan of Jun Kasai, congratulations. Because let's face it, Kasai, one of the best of all time, just proved it again. So, and it's been a real joy having Kasai in the States. Not just once, not just twice, but 3 times within 2023. Wild. And I hope we see Kasai more in the States. I don't know. Or we may have seen the last of him. But what we do know is that it happened. You can smile, you can enjoy, you can cheer. And Deathmatch Wrestling, as I tweeted out a few days ago, Deathmatch Wrestling is thriving. It is going to continue to thrive. The more promotions that are able to do Deathmatch Wrestling within its doors, the better. And it will not always be glass laden. It will not always be these ginormous extravaganzas of glass. But the fact that it's out there, the fact that it's being absorbed by the media, by the fans, is only beneficial. So that's kind of, I want to catch up on those things. I know, congratulations to everyone who was a part of the Battle of the Tough Guys tournament for ICW as well. I believe Hoodfoot won that one. Hoodfoot, man, he's been there, done that. I think the big question for him is going to be what can he do? What else can he do for ICW? I mean, he's defended the belt. I think it'll have been a year since he first won the belt. So, who's going to step up? I mean, he's had some stints with Dr. Redacted. I thought maybe Redacted was going to win. And you never know if maybe Atticus takes a shot at that belt. Well, we will see. I mean, we never know what the future of the chains. But speaking of the chains, Cruel regained the IWTV championship. And apparently he's defending the belt in England. In a crazy turn of events, Cruel is back. Better than ever. Actually, he's never left. I should rephrase that. Cruel, man. He is a behemoth. I will say this: being around that man, it is terrifying. It is freaking terrifying. Literally, that man should be playing professional basketball, but he's professional wrestling's favorite new slasher villain. But he ended Alec Price's 140-day reign as champion at the Festival. And now Cruel is defending the belt in England in a 4-way with Danny Darko, Big F and Joe, and Abdullah Kobayashi. I didn't think I'd be putting all 4 in the same sentence, but here we are. Those ICW UK shows look awesome. They always look good, in my opinion, though. You can never go wrong with how good those shows look. And last time around, they were looking, I know there's a whole incident, but Deathmatch Wrestling is back in the UK. It's better than ever. Side note, watch Bleeding Gums, their first show in Scotland. It's Scotland's first show. They are announcing a Deathmatch tournament, which is going to be really cool. Good names on that so far, and only can get better. But back to the chains in the UK. I mean, I'm lobbying for Big F and Joe to roll some heads and be IWTV champion. I think it'd be the craziest thing ever. It'd be the funniest thing ever. Funniest in the way like, damn, Cruel just won the belt back, and now Big F and Joe, who that man, he has zero fear. Come on now, he's wearing freaking whitey tighties to the ring. It's that's one of my dudes, Big F and Joe. So I'm rooting for him. Um, on some other great matches were announced for the UK. MM3 versus BA Rose. Two super underrated deathmatch guys. These are gonna be the shows that you're like, damn, like, and they're doing three. They're doing three freaking shows. They're doing Ultraviolet Vortex. They're doing a No Holds Barred. I think they're doing a Rise show as well. So really some great stuff. Great rosters. I mean, of course, you got Atticus is coming over. Iceman, who is a legend. I'm hoping he gets a US run before he hangs him up. Would love to see Iceman here in the States. I think we got what, Abdullah Kobayashi and Danny versus Iceman and his son Jack Harrop, which is gonna be really cool. A lot of good stuff. The chains have a lot, and then kind of the big announcement, they're back at Berwyn. I didn't know, I had no idea this was coming. That's gonna be May 4th, and I believe that they just announced that they're doing 2 more shows before that in April. ICW was a busy few months. I believe they have at least a show every month from January. I don't know about February, but March, April, May, bam, they're off to the races. And I know there was some mired controversy that ICW was not allowed to run at Berwyn Eagles, but those have been kiboshed, as I'll say. And also, I can't talk about ICW without the Mania weekend. I'll talk about the first of the Mania weekend shows. The International Deathmatch Summit. They have guys from Japan, New Zealand, Australia, Canada, and the UK on this show. So, excuse me, it's gonna be real cool. Tara Zepp versus Shazza McKenzie was the first match announced. Tara Zepp, one of the Kings Road people. We love Tara in this house. Really cool to see her getting out there and doing what she's doing. And she trained under she has a great trainer, Artemis Spencer, over in the West. But aside from that, like Tara getting into the deathmatch world, I mean, 2 years ago, I remember her as a fan. Like, it's crazy how the world of deathmatch wrestling works. And she's doing it all. And now she's facing Shazza McKenzie in a match in the chains Mania weekend, and it's happening for her. And you could not be happier for someone than Tara Zepp. And so, congrats to her. I'm curious to see who else is on this card. I think a lot of us are. So I want to also, before I get to other Mania bookings, I want to talk about some international stuff. Masashi Takeda winning the King of Freedom World Championship to close the year 2023. Being Toru Sugiura in a 4 light tube and glassboard death match. He ended Toru's 136 days in his 5th defense. So Takeda's 3rd reign with the King of Freedom. You might have remembered when he held both the BJW and the King of Freedom belt. Iconic. So, but yeah, we don't know who he will be facing, but I wanted to read this. This is probably one of the most iconic lines from a deathmatch wrestler. Today, the deathmatch god smiled on me. When I won, and when I looked at the ceiling, I saw my late wife. I wonder if she's watching over what I'm doing. Maybe it's all my mind, though. That is an awesome line from Takeda. I know he's struggled over the past year and a half. His late wife, he's a single father now, taking care of his daughter. Really emotional stuff, but he is now back. he's back. He's him and Mance Warder was kind of like the return for me. I mean, yes, he was in the War Games match, but that Mance Warner match at the Sunday of GCW, the aftermath of War Games, was really freaking good. And I'm really happy to see Takeda get the belt back. It's really cool. And I mean, kudos to him. It's been tough sledding for him. So really could not be any more happy for Takeda winning that. And then I want to get to my good friends at Ruthless Pro Wrestling, RPW. They are busy. They are busy in the month of March and April. March 2nd, for all my Chicago peeps, get on those tickets for Animosity. I'll be ringside taking clips. And of course, the big thing for me there is I'm going to be doing it with my good friend Martin from Wrestling Unicorns. Kind of want to give a shout to him because Martin has been someone I literally had him on. He was like one of the very first episodes. If you can go all the way back, him and John, we've kept in touch for so long. You may have seen him doing clips for Circle 6 lately out east. He's getting back into the deathmatch game, which is, it's been a long time. I mean, the guy's been around the world taking clips, and for him to come back to Chicago and to do clips for RPW is such a huge honor. To be doing them with me is even bigger. So Martin, thank you for literally being as supportive as ever for me getting to do these clips. But Animosity, 3 matches have already been announced, or actually 4 now that I think about. Eric Dillinger, Remington Roar for the Kamikaze belt is really freaking cool. I love both those guys. As you know, I'm such a big fan of Eric. I think he's been working so hard, and I think him getting in the RPW door has really been good for him. Really cannot wait to see how this match goes. I love Remington, though. Remington's one of my dudes. I'm kind of torn and conflicted. I apologize. Nonetheless, though, those 2 are happening. Hoodfoot defending his world championship against Atticus Cogar. That is going to be crazy. That is going to be crazy. That's just, I mean, I'm curious to see how that match is going to go. I want to see some technical wrestling with those 2. They can both go. They're both very talented. Atticus, there's not much else you need to say about him. He's chugging along. And Hoodfoot, another belt under his collection. And of course, the big main event, no rope barbed wire with Otis, Cogar, and Hardway Heater. If you know, I'll just kind of get a little background. Back at Whiteout in December, the No Ring show, an unfortunate incident with a light tube hit Otis, kind of cut his arm real wide open. Probably one of the most gruesome injuries I've ever seen in my life. And it was a no contest. And so scores are being settled in Berwyn Eagles. It won't just be glass flying. I can guarantee you that there will be bodies flying in this match. So get your tickets for Animosity. Front row already sold. Thank you to everyone who bought front rows real quickly, because it just shows RPW. This is home base number 2 for them in Chicago. And Chicago Deathmatch Wrestling is alive and well. And this is really, really huge for them, because this is not going to be the only Berwyn date. I can guarantee you that. And we will be having Chris Kohlberg on back again, my dear friend, to talk about these 2 shows, the second show as well. We're going to have like a whole RPW show episode again, because I truly believe in what RPW is doing. Midwest Deathmatch is kind of been a bit of a lull period. I mean, yes, ICW is coming back, but RPW is kind of filling that void very nicely. And also CCW, when they get going, they won't be glass heavy. They won't even have glass at all, but they're going to have death matches, but they're more of the BJW formula. But RPW really is filling the void nicely of deathmatch wrestling in Chicago. So they're on the up. You get on the bandwagon now, as I'm going to say. Get on the up. So, but the other big news is they're back in New Jersey for main weekend on Sunday, April 7th. They'll be back. They're probably one of the last shows of the H2O Center week, the anthology. And they're going to have the show Miasma. I believe they changed the time to 4 Eastern, so that would be 3 Central for those of you in the Central Standard Time. So they're back. The last time they were at the H2O Center, they put on a banger of a show. I can only expect better. I'll be out there as well for that show. And of course, they couldn't have announced the show without a huge first match. Did you really expect RPW to just sit on their Twitter fingers and not announce anything? The Duke, John Wayne Murdoch, returns to RPW, and he's not just taking on anybody. He's taking on the Japan's own Yusaku Ito in a Tokyo Towers and Light Tubes bundles death match. This is a great first match to start off the card. For those of you that maybe don't know him well, he's been around BJW, he's been on Freedoms, he's wrestled the Kasais, the Takedas, the Rina Yamashas of the world, and he is coming to the United States. Maybe he shows up in the chains. Maybe he shows up elsewhere. I don't know. But focusing on RPW, he is going to have a huge match against John Wayne Murdoch at RPW's Miasma. Get on those tickets for Mania weekend. You never know who's going to show up. You never know who's going to show up at RPW. And as I said, they're on the up. Get on the bandwagon now. Get on the rocket ship. They are soaring to Mars, to the planets. You never know what RPW is going to be up to. So stay tuned on social medias for those announcements. And yeah, and I mean, I wanted to also talk about Murdoch, and I realized I didn't talk about this, but the match at GCW in Chicago, Rina Yamashita and John Wayne Murdoch had a rematch for the Ultraviolet belt. And I gotta tell y'all, I know that some people get mad when there's not glassies and death matches. But brother, go watch Murdoch and Rina Yamashita from Chicago. Which, by the way, I love Talia Hall. I used to go to concerts there, and now I'm seeing wrestling shows there. It's kind of crazy how the world works. Great overall show at GCW, even if I got shoved by Mance Warner. Hey, Mance, hope Effie kicks your ass. Just gonna say that. Rina Yamashita and Murdoch, Rina coming off the through the crowd from the balcony dive was awesome, but they use gussets and they kind of there's just venues that won't allow glass, and I think people need to realize that. And I know Mike would be like, well, it's just not listen, you can still get the bloody effect. You can still get the visual effect. I mean, they use skewers, they use gussets, they use doors. They put on a masterclass of how to not always use glass in a death match to be accommodating of the surroundings. And they put on a hell of a match. I mean, Rina Yamashita sells better than anybody. She is a selling queen. I'm sorry. Rina is the gold standard. I mean, she's held that belt for over a year. First woman to win TOS, a GCW deathmatch tournament for that matter. And this was excellent stuff. I just wanted to end on that because you don't always need glass to get the effect. And the crowd was eating it up. And I noticed a lot of newer fans at Talia Hall, and it was really awesome to see. I was doing rides for Brett that day, so this was really cool and just great night of wrestling. Not even just death matches, just wrestling in general. So that was really cool. Yeah, Mance shoved me into my seat, caught on 4K. I hope Effie kicks his ass in Tampa. I know he will. I think that's really all I got for this episode. There's a lot going on in the world of deathmatch wrestling. As I said, we're back to weekly. Hoping to have some more interviews lined up. You never know who's going to pop on here. Nonetheless, though, I want to thank you guys for listening to this episode. Really appreciate you guys listening. Thank you for buying our merch as well. Thank you to Chris Jewett, who actually bought our hoodie. You can go buy that on the Count Out store. Also, just make sure you go over to the Count Out Patreon. The best $5 you will spend. I did an episode with Ryan Knightsey of the Great Birthday Bash. Oh my god, I can't speak anymore. That was really fun with Ryan. Talked about some matches that actually applied to my birthday. Funny enough, one of them being the TOD final from 2016, which was kind of cool. So go check that out. Best $5 you will spend anywhere else. And of course, just stay tuned to all the great podcasts on the Count Out Network as well. Just support us. So buy our merch. Still have Deathmatch Worldwide open. Have 2 designs on there for you guys. And yeah, 2024, we're just gonna keep chugging. We're gonna keep rolling. And thank you guys for listening. Thank you guys for enjoying this episode of Your Dose of Death podcast.
This has been a Count Out Podcast.